students have already entered the meeting. Please, I've told you, be on time, because once I start my slideshow, I cannot go back and admit them. Then it becomes very difficult for me to switch from here and there. All right. So I've already started the recording. Are there 17 students in the class? I don't think so. See, be there on time. Enter the meeting. You all can at least enter the meeting at 9:27 or something, even if I enter at 9:30. So once I enter, I will admit you everybody in the meeting. Okay. I'll give two 1 more minutes for everybody to enter. Rutik Bopi. Poonam Kalshetty. Kushi. Swapnil Basi. Sandeep Gupta. Amisha Karmakar. Amisha, I thought I saw something in the group that you won some competition. Huh, Amisha?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that? Let me know more about it, because I am not aware.
Ma'am, poster making competition.
1 second. Let me increase the volume. I can't hear you. Yeah. Say.
Poster making competition.
Still, the voice is not clear. Can you chat? Can you write? So whatever it is, congratulations from my side. And everybody, please participate. That is how you get more excited about your studies and other activities. Only studies are always like never a good thing. You always have to a combination of competitions, even going for some interviews. Also start doing that. You may be thinking right now we are in the college, doesn't matter. The more exposure you will have, the better it will be for your growth. People start working when they are college part time. Even if it is part time job now, 1 hour 2 hours, you will get to know so many things, you'll learn so many things. Okay, now I will start my lecture. Poster making competition on APJ Abdul Kalam. Okay, very nice. Congratulations from my side. Okay, and rest of you, I'm encouraging you to participate. Okay, let's let me present my PPTs, so that I'm going to wind up this chapter today, the first chapter of effective communication, and the name of the chapter was an overview of communication. So I'm going to give you certain situations where you will be finding the coders, encoders, what is a feedback, and other things. Then in the end, I'm going to give you a PPT where there are a lot of questions written. That question is your assignment. Okay, I'm going to post it in the Google Meet also, in on this where you have to post your assignments by the teachers there also. But here also, in case I don't put it, I'm giving you here only, you can take a screenshot. But once I put it in the Google Meet, then it becomes official. Now you can start preparing for that assignment henceforth. But if I give you, so for example, today is 23rd of October, and if I post that on 25th of October, so you will have two more times, because you already know that in advance that Miss has given this work to do. Okay, so let's start. Let's begin. Please, one of you unmute yourself and tell me if you are able to see the slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So we'll continue now. We This is just a recap of the last slide that we did on in our previous lecture, and we were talking about devices of communication. So let's have a very quick recap for those devices. This old model telephone, how it graduated to cordless, then mobile phones. These are the fax papers, and these are the printers, and this is a very smart setup for office where everything which is related to communication is kept. Okay, so this is the last slide that we had last week. Now, there was a story which I'm not going to take up. I told you that day also. Now, this exercise we discussed that day in my previous lecture. Okay, now here is the second solution question. Here you have to identify the barriers. You have to identify the barriers of communication in this present situation. The present situation that I have given you is this: Mr. A, how would you like you to be transferred to our Bangalore office? Mr. A interrupts. Sir, this is not fair. I have never neglected my duties, never offended anybody. I am punctual and I have not taken any leaves. Blah, blah, blah. Means when somebody or Mr. Boss was talking, Mr. Y was talking something like, how would you like to be transferred to our Bangalore office? This communication was interrupted by Mr. A because उससे बात कर रहा था. So what he says, this is not fair, as if like he is looking into the transfer as a punishment. This is not fair. I have never neglected my duties, never offended anybody. I'm punctual. I've not taken any leave. Blah blah blah. Now Mr. Y says, the boss now interrupts and says, so shall I take it that you don't want to be promoted as you don't want to be transferred to Delhi? So what is the barrier here? Let me know one word from you. What is the barrier here?
Mr. A was not a good listener.
Yes, he was not a good listener. So, barrier to communication here was he was impatient. He wanted to just drop into the, whatever he was saying. Mr. Speaker was speaking something, he interrupted him because he was not a good listener, because he never allowed Mr. Y to complete his dialogue. Whatever he wanted to say, he did not allow him. So that was his problem. So let's move on to the next question. Here also, you will be identifying the barriers to communication. I'm going to read it out to you, but this time I'm not going to give you any hint. Okay, here we go. Mr. Z was not talking term with Mr. X. So there are two people, Mr. Z and Mr. X, and they were not talking to each other. One day, Mr. X said to Mr. Z, "Can I have a word with you?" Mr. Z said, because they were not on a talking terms, as it is, there was something in his mind, and said, "No, I'm busy. Some other time." Mr. Z went away. Okay. When Mr. Z reached home late in the evening, he saw his neighbors gathered in the compound. He discovered that his father had died, and he saw Mr. X along with other neighbors trying to fix things and organize the funeral. So, what is the barrier here? What is the barrier here?
He was being too proud to listen to
He,
him.
he was,
Being too proud.
yeah, it was. He was being too proud, or he was too egoistic. कि I don't want to talk. ठीक है ना? और भी बहुत सारी, there are many factors which are, behavioral factors, that when I'm not talking to him, why should I talk to him, something like that. So there was a barrier, and that barrier is ego, that barrier is pride. Okay. And then what other words can uh, come to this trait of personality, who doesn't want to listen?
Ignorant.
Ignorance. Yeah. And then please come up. This is called brainstorming, and it is very important because there are certain points in my mind I would speak, but I'm finding that you are able to give me better answers. So why shouldn't I listen to you first before I speak up my mind? Please come up.
Self-destructive.
Huh?
Self-destructive.
Self-destructive. Okay. Yeah, in a way, because he's not listening to others. He has a preconceived ideas in his mind. This is what I wanted to tell you. He has preconceived thoughts in his mind which were blocking his conversation with X. Mr. X, right?
Lack of initiative also, ma'am.
Lack of initiation. Okay. But lack of initiation was there. uh,
Initiative.
Initiative. No, no, no. It is. See, Mr. Z took. Mr. X took the initiative. Now he was to respond to that initiative that was taken by Mr. X, but he did not do because he had a, maybe was having pride, maybe he was having ego, maybe he was ignorant. But ignorance come sometime when you are on a talking terms, and then you are not like listening to somebody. When you are in talking terms with your friend, and some your friend comes and tells you, hey, I want to tell you something, but you said, no, no, I'm busy, and you just move away. Then it is ignorance, because you were talking terms, there was no proud, there was no, you were in a hurry, and you didn't think that whatever piece of information that he wanted to give me was important. Maybe he was just wanted to chat with me, waste my time, or just like that. Never thought that the piece of information that he's supposed to give me could be so crucial. So in that regard, this could be ignorance, but here it was his preconceived ideas or thoughts that stopped him from getting the information from Mr. X, right? So this is a big barrier. Whatever is the cause, you should never, at least for a second, listen to him. And if you find, and ask him, is that all that you want to tell me? If the piece of information he says, okay, I want to tell you this, then move ahead. Don't waste your time agar if you are in a hurry. In case you both of you know each other and you are on talking term, that is what I want to tell you. Sometimes friends may we do these things, like we are in such a hurry that we don't listen to. But still you should have that audacity or courtesy to tell, yes, what is it? Tell me quickly because I am in a hurry. If there is a good piece of information that he wants to share, and he should share it in a brevity means very small short conversation, not to waste other people's time. Don't have to make stories, right? So this was the second situation that I, now this is again, I'm giving you this process because there is a source who is the speaker. Whatever message he has to give, he encodes that message, it goes, passes through the channel, then it is being decoded by the listener. Why I'm giving you this chart again? Because there is a question here. Now this is an exercise I've taken from the book Effective Communication by Rajkedhar Ashwini Gangar. Vipul's series. Okay, so we'll be reading this out aloud, and then you have to find out from here who is the encoder in the passage, who is the decoder, what is the code, and what is the feedback. Does the communication end naturally? So this you have to understand. What is the feedback? Who is the decoder? Who is the encoder? Does the communication end properly? Let's go back to the question. Now, read the following excerpt and okay. The king rose when the curtain before the door was raised. His first idea was that a letter from Louis had arrived, but instead of a letter of love, he only saw his captain of musketeers standing upright and perfectly silent in the doorway. Mr. Diorgan Ortagnan, Mr. Diortagnan, he said, "Ah, well, monsieur, is it done?" "Yes, sire," replied the captain of the musketeer in a grave voice, "it is done." "What did Comte say?" "Nothing at all, sire." So they say, "Sire," it is the French language. Monsieur, Mr. Monsieur means Mr. Sire means sir. Okay. Surely he did not allow himself to be arrested without saying something. He said he expected to be arrested, sire. The king raised his head haughtily. "I presume," he said, "that Mr. M. La Comte de la Fere has not continued to play his obstinate and rebellious part." "In the first place, sire, what do you term rebellious?" quietly asked the musketeer. "A rebel in the eyes of the king is a man who not only allows himself to be shut up in Bastille, but still more who opposes those who do not wish to take him there." "Who do not wish to take him there?" exclaimed the king. "What do you say, captain? Are you mad?" "I believe not, sire." "Ah, Monsieur Artagnan, so you set your king at defiance, sire." "Sire, Monsieur D'Artagnan, I warn you that you are abusing my patience." "On the contrary, sire." "What do you mean by on the contrary?" "I have come to get myself arrested too." "To get yourself arrested? You?" "Of course, my friend will get wearied to death in the Bastille by himself, and I have come to propose to your majesty to permit to bear him company. If your majesty will give the word, I will arrest myself. I shall not need the captain of the guard for that, I assure you." The king darted towards the table and seized hold of a pen to write the order of for the Artagnan's imprisonment. "Pay attention, monsieur, that this is forever," cried the king in a tone of stern menace. So this was a piece taken from the Three Musketeers. Okay, the Three Musketeers. I am not interested in the passage. I'm not interested in the language. Maybe it is very easy for you people who have uh, read the story, but I am interested in you telling me who is the encoder in the passage, who is the decoder, what is the code, and what is the feedback. Does the communication end naturally? Please come on one by one. In case you want to have a reading one more time, I can give you 2 minutes, okay? But I want an answer from you people, okay? I'm putting a timer of 2 minutes. I hope that will be sufficient for you to read this piece. Timer started. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so your time is up. See, if this was a comprehension exercise, I would have asked other questions like where was Comte imprisoned, or what was the reason, or whatever. But right now, I'm not into comprehension. We'll do that also later on, because you have to comprehend everything well to be a good listener and a speaker. Okay, here currently we have to just understand the process of one communication. I told you, you want to go back to the previous slide to understand. What I want from you is here. What, who is the encoder here? That means encoder is the person here. Who is the decoder? The person who is receiving the information. And the person who is receiving the information, whatever action that person takes, is the feedback to the person who is the speaker. Right? You understood this process? Now, again, coming back to the paragraph. Who is the encoder? Let me know. Can anybody tell me?
Ma'am, I think it is the king.
King is the decoder, because whatever information is passed on by the encoder, he is listening. Okay. So king is the decoder of the information. He is the listener. Okay. So who is the encoder?
Ma'am, the captain.
Aha, this man. It's very difficult to pronounce, but it's okay. The are tagnans. ठीक है? M D R tagnans. Okay. He is the encoder in the passage. Now tell me, what is the code? That means what is the message? Let's see. What is the code? The message is the code. What is the code here? Please come on fast, because I have to wind up this chapter today. And in case we are not able to, then you will have to finish everything on your own. I will not take the next lecture for this chapter. Please, it's very easy. What is the code? The code was, what is the
Uh,
message?
I
Yeah, yeah.
have come myself to get arrested too.
Yes, the code was that Comte has been arrested and he wants himself to be arrested too. Very nice. Good. I'm proud of you. Who gave this answer? What's your name?
Keval, ma'am.
Cable. Very nice. Very nice, Cable. Now, what is the feedback? Cable gave the answer for this question number 3. Okay. What is the feedback? What was the feedback? See, what action was taken by the king? What was the, after listening to everything, what was the action? Feedback is whatever is done after listening something.
He picked up a pen and wrote a order of captain's imprisonment.
So this was the whole communication. And does the communication end naturally? Last question. Does the communication end naturally? Come on, come on, come on. Yes, it ended naturally. It ended naturally. Whatever he wanted is done, and there was no, like, nobody interfered in the communication. Is so it ended naturally, right? Okay, so done. Let's move on to the next. Okay. Huh. Again, I'm going to read it out to you people, and here you will have certain tasks which you will be doing. For example, here is the task. After reading this paragraph, there is a task, and the task is you have to choose either one. Number one is correct, or number. One second. नहीं, कल भी रखा था fix. Words को डाल दो. Okay, so uh, wearing their light raincoats against the evening drizzle. Drizzle is a हल्का हल्का बारिश जो होता है ना, drizzling. The two of them, who two of them? The colonel and the major left their car and proceeded on foot along the concrete path towards Camadin Palace. When they reached the wrought iron gate set in the 10-foot high spiked wall, the taller of the two, the colonel, pushed the bell without a moment of hesitation. Okay, this is a small paragraph. If you want, I can read it again for you for better understanding. Wearing their light raincoats against the evening drizzle, the two of them, the colonel and the major, left their car and proceeded on foot along the concrete path towards Camerden Palace. When they reached the wrought iron gate set in 10-foot high spiked wall, the taller of the two, the colonel, pushed the bell without a moment of hesitation. Select the answer you think is the right one. Now, this is the sentence. Based on this, whether this or this is correct. The colonel pushed the bell without a moment's hesitation because he was a brave man, or because he was anticipated the response to pushing his bell.
Ma'am, I think the second one.
Correct. The second one, because he anticipated that somebody will be responding to his pushing the bell, so without a moment's hesitation he did that. Now, continuing with the same story, the colonel spoke. The major and I are messengers from General Nokon, and we have instruction to deliver a confidential document by hand to President Prem Sang. You need not announce us. That means you don't shout that we have come. You need not announce us, as our papers indicate the president is expecting us. Okay? The papers indicate that president is waiting for us. He is expecting us. Now, the colonel and the major actually have a confidential document for the president, or they have something else on their mind. So which one do you think is the correct thing? So why did he say that you did? Oh, sorry. Why did he say that you need not announce us to respond? To why? Is this the reason, or is this the reason?
What's the first one?
Yeah, because the colonel no, no. The colonel and the major actually have a confidential confidential. Yes. Okay. Yes, the first one is the correct one, because that is why he said, please don't announce. I have something confidential in my hand. Okay. But depending on the body language, in case you see this thing happening, so there can be many things that you can understand. If the facial expression, the gestures and the body language sometimes shows that they may have something else in their mind, but just by reading these paragraphs we can only come to this conclusion. If the colonel and the major, they are like suspicious, looking here and there, and then saying don't announce us, man, means something else is going on in their mind, or maybe they would just want to barge inside with some malintentions or something that they may not want other people to know. So right now that body language thing is missing from here. So just by reading this paragraph, we can only come to know that because they had a confidential document, so that is why they don't want them to announce it. Okay. Now, continuing with the same story, the captain of the guards shook his head. Sorry, sir. You must announce your arrival. He unlocked the gate and opened it. Step inside while inform the president's secretary. There is a spelling mistake. I'm sorry. It is secretary. So the captain of the guard shook his head. Sorry, sir. We must announce your arrival. Now, this is the key line. He says, we must announce your arrival. He unlocked the gate and opened it. Step inside while I inform the president's secretary. Okay. So now, why he says that we must announce? Is it that he smells a rat, or is it that he's only performing his duty?
Ma'am, second one.
Yes. So because right now body language is missing, and there was no other body language which was telling the guard that they are, barging into the gate, or they are somebody else from some other place, masking in the, mask themselves as major and colonel. So right now he was just performing his duty. Okay. Continuing with the same story, the colonel showed no concern. Okay. The colonel showed no concern. He had been prepared for this. He went into the courtyard, closely followed by the major, and they stood beside the sleepy men, while the captain of the guard ducked into the guardhouse to use the telephone. Okay. Is the colonel's indifference in is genuine? Now the question is yes or no, because he showed no concern. This is the key line. So जो उसका indifference था colonel का, is this genuine? Yes or no?
No.
No. Yes. Answer is yes, because he knows that this man is performing his duty. So he did not show any concern. He knows that this is the procedure. He will have to announce him. He will have to take the phone, tell them. So his genuine, it was genuine gesture on his behalf that he will not respond. If he would have been a barger or somebody else from the enemy camp, this would not be. He would show concern, but now he knows that he is doing his duty. He has to allow the other person to perform whatever is by the protocol, right? He has to follow the protocol. Next, moving ahead, same story. The pair could overhear on the telephone. Now, which pair? The colonel and the major. Miss Cariassery, the colonel and the major arrived with confidential matter for the president from General Nacrom. Are you expecting them? And then, because it is on the phone, you will not hear the other, what Miss Cariassery responded. So there was a gap. There was a silence as the captain of the guard listened. You say the journal office called. So what they could hear is, you say the journal's office called. He listened again. There was a gap and nodded in assent. So why he nodded in assent? He gets the order to arrest them, or he is asked to allow them to proceed into palace.
Second one.
Yes. So the second one. Why I have given you this, because here the body language is missing. Okay. And you have to derive everything on your own. This concludes the chapter number 1, and I want to end this chapter here on one note. The art of effective listening is essential to clear communication. Effective listening is very, very important, and the clear communication is necessary for management. Okay. Now, you that day asked me the books on body language. I actually searched my place because of certain, okay. So I was, because of my busy schedule, I could not, because it's a big library. What I could do sitting on the computer is, these are the list of books that are available on the net. Okay, body language के लिए there are numbered. You will get dime a dozen if you just go to a bookstall and ask him a body language book. Any bookstall will give you, in case you want a hard copy. In case you want to buy a PDF copy, then also it is available on the Amazon and other social, on the internet. So these are the books. In case you want to have a take a screenshot, you can take it. I don't have these PDF, otherwise I would have given you the PDF file with the password so that all of you can read the books. Okay, now I think I should also switch over from my, this library to the PDF library, so that we can share extensively. Okay, now, okay, there is something that is, which I'm missing. Just one second, huh? One second, I'm missing out on something. There were two communication videos that I wanted to show you people. Where are those videos? Okay, anyways, even if it is not here, I'm going to end this show. Okay, um discard, and then I'll show you two videos which I actually searched for you people. uh, Let me see if it is there in the memory. Yeah, it was on this slide only. I actually okay, so I'm going to share this file again, because what I thought it is on the other slide, but it was written जिसमें book का लिखा हुआ था ना, it is on that very window. Okay, see, these are the things. I'm going to copy this one by one, and I'm going to show you. Okay, and I'll share it on the YouTube. This is a very funny video, and if can you see the YouTube window?
No, ma'am.
No,
No?
ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So I will have to do something else. I'll have to stop the PPTs. I'll have to stop the PPTs. There's something wrong. A tab. Why is this YouTube with I'm not able to share it? Okay, what I can do is I will share the entire screen, and then whatever is there on my screen will be visible to you. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, Cancel this, and this is the entire screen. Is my entire screen visible now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now this video will be visible to you. I think you can see something on the screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank God. Okay, this is the video that I wanted you to. It's a very funny video and on communication. See how the language and these things, they affect the communication.
Miss, audio is not.
Ma'am, please meet yourself.
Pardon?
Ma'am, please meet your mic.
I'm so sorry, I can't hear. One second. Yes, tell me.
मैम आपका म्यूट कीजिए माइक को.
I have to unmute my. I have to mute my.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll do that. Okay, one second.
It's not audible, ma'am.
Ma'am, ma'am, audio is not audible.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
you are
your
on mute.
mic is. Ma'am,
Ma'am, your mic is off.
Now, was the audio not there? What happened? You were not able to hear the audio?
Yes, ma'am.
no, ma'am.
Okay, so that is what I'm telling you. When last year also, when I used to share the YouTube videos on this, when I used to share it via full screen, the audio would not be there. So that is why I use it on the tab, and when I open tab today, it is not showing only. Maybe they. Yes, now it has come. Now it has come. So it will be clear. Tell me, huh, in case it is not clear. Let me unmute my.
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
It's audible मैम.
Mr. President, Condoleezza Rice is here to see you.
Good, send her in.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Oh, Condoleezza, good to see you. What's happening?
Well, Mr. President, I have the report here about the new leader in China.
That's great, Condi. Let's hear it.
Mr. President, who is the new leader of China?
Well, that's what I want to know.
But that's what I'm telling you, Mr. President.
Well, that's what I'm asking you, Condi. Who is the new leader of China?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
Who?
The guy in China.
Who?
The new leader of China.
Who?
The Chinaman.
Who is leading China, Mr. President?
What are you asking me for?
I'm telling you who is leading China.
Well, I'm asking you, Condi, who is leading China?
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Will you or will you not tell me the name of the new leader of China?
Yes, sir.
Yasser? Yasser Arafat is in China? I thought he was in the Middle East.
That's correct, sir.
Then who is in China?
Yes, sir.
Yasser is in China?
No, sir.
Then who is?
Yes, sir.
Yasser?
No, sir.
I need to know the name of the new leader of China. So I want you to get me the Secretary General of the United Nations on the phone.
You want coffee?
No,
You don't want coffee?
no. But now that you mention it, I could use a glass of milk. And then get me the UN.
Yes, sir.
Not yes, sir. The guy at the United Nations.
Coffee?
Milk. Will you please make that call?
And call who?
Well, who is the guy at the UN?
No. Who is the guy in China?
Will you stay out of China?
Yes, sir.
And stay out of the Middle East. Just get me the guy at the UN.
Coffee?
Alright. With cream and 2 sugars. Now get on the phone.
Hello. Rice here.
Rice? Good idea. And get a couple of egg rolls too, Condi. Maybe we should send some to the guy in China and the Middle East. Can you get Chinese food in the Middle East? I don't know.
मैम आपका माइक ऑफ है.
So you enjoyed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there is one more video. If you have time, I can show it to you. Because it's hardly 2 minutes. It's not a 2-minute video, and we have only 2 minutes.
Do you know
okay?
99%
So
of
it would be
coaches and
good idea in
consultants are
case,
not able to
you
get
can
enough
give me
sign-ups for
5
their
more
courses.
extra minutes. Will
ऐसा
that
नहीं
be
उनको
okay?
अपना काम करना नहीं आता, बहुत अच्छे से
I'll
आता है,
Yes,
लेकिन
ma'am.
उनको अपने कोर्सेज को सेल करना नहीं आता. देखिए, इस टाइम पे अगर आप वीडियोस को अपनी मार्केटिंग और सेल्स का बैकबोन नहीं बनाएंगे,
Ma'am, your mic is off.
Sorry, because it takes some time, There's some problem.
Suddenly accuses you of not listening to what they're saying at all. What's going on here? The answer is miscommunication, and in some form or another, we've all experienced it. It can
You're
lead to
able to see
confusion,
something?
animosity,
Yes, ma'am. Please
misunderstanding,
mute yourself.
or even crashing
Audio
a
is clear?
multi-million-dollar probe into the surface of Mars.
Yes, ma'am.
The fact is, even when face to face with another person, in the very same room, and speaking the same language, human communication is incredibly complex. But the good news is that a basic understanding of what happens when we communicate can help us prevent miscommunication. For decades, researchers have asked what happens when we communicate. One interpretation, called the transmission model, views communication as a message that moves directly from one person to another, similar to someone tossing a ball and walking away. But in reality, this simplistic model doesn't account for communication's complexity. Enter the transactional model, which acknowledges the many added challenges of communicating. With this model, it's more accurate to think of communication between people as a game of catch. As we communicate our message, we receive feedback from the other party. Through the transaction, we create meaning together. But from this exchange, further complications arise. It's not like the Star Trek universe, where some characters can Vulcan mind meld, fully sharing thoughts and feelings. As humans, we can't help but send and receive messages through our own subjective lenses. When communicating, one person expresses her interpretation of a message, and the person she's communicating with hears his own interpretation of that message. Our perceptual filters continually shift meanings and interpretations. Remember that game of catch? Imagine it with a lump of clay. As each person touches it, they shape it to fit their own unique perceptions based on any number of variables, like knowledge or past experience, age, race, gender, ethnicity, religion, or family background. Simultaneously, every person interprets the message they receive based on their relationship with the other person and their unique understanding of the semantics and connotations of the exact words being used. They could also be distracted by other stimuli, such as traffic or a growling stomach. Even emotion might cloud their understanding. And by adding more people into a conversation, each with their own subjectivities, the complexity of communication grows exponentially. So as the lump of clay goes back and forth from one person to another, reworked, reshaped, and always changing, it's no wonder our messages sometimes turn into a mush of miscommunication. But luckily, there are some simple practices that can help us all navigate our daily interactions for better communication. 1. Recognize that passive hearing and active listening are not the same. Engage actively with the verbal and nonverbal feedback of others and adjust your message to facilitate greater understanding. 2. Listen with your eyes and ears, as well as with your gut. Remember that communication is more than just words. 3. Take time to understand as you try to be understood. In the rush to express ourselves, it's easy to forget that communication is a two-way street. Be open to what the other person might say. And finally, 4. Be aware of your personal perceptual filters. Elements of your experience, including your culture, community, and family, influence how you see the world. Say, "This is how I see the problem, but how do you see it?" Don't assume that your perception is the objective truth. That'll help you work towards sharing a dialogue with others to reach a common understanding together.
Okay. If you are free, I can show you one more video on communication. It's also, I think, 2 or 3 minutes ka video. Are you okay with that?
Okay.
Okay, because otherwise I'm not going to go back to this chapter again. From next week, I'm going to start with a new chapter. Okay, so one second. This is still okay. This was still going on. Okay, now there is one more video. So here it is. I'm going to share this video also with you, and this is the last video. After this, I'll wind up the class. Okay. The name of this video is the recipe for great communication. Okay. Enjoy.
So what's the recipe for great communication? If we were going to think about our communication as a meal, what are the ingredients that we need to have present in the meal? How do we put together a great meal? Well, let's think about it this way. There are really 5 ingredients that have to be present all the time for great communication to be possible. All right, the first ingredient is clarity. How do you make your point clearly? It's got to be clear. The second ingredient is brevity. How do you get to the point quickly? How do you not waste people's time? The third ingredient is context. How do you help people see how your point or how your message fits in for them? How does it make sense for them? The fourth ingredient is impact. How do you make it stand out? How do you make it memorable? And the fifth ingredient is value, which is fairly self-explanatory. How do you make your message valuable for the people who are consuming it? 5 ingredients that will go into every communication meal: clarity, brevity, context, impact, and value. Okay, great. So we've got our ingredients. Now the next question is, how much of each ingredient do we need? And just like cooking a great meal, that's going to depend. Different meals are going to need different ingredients. They're going to need the ingredients in different proportions. And different audiences are going to have different palates. They're going to want different things out of their meal. So the really savvy communicator is going to look at their row of ingredients and is going to be able to determine, based on the audience that they're preparing their message for, what ingredients need to be dominant. So how do you figure it out? Well, when do we need clarity to be an important ingredient? Well, when there's a lot of complexity around the situation or around the issue, you need to make sure that your message includes plenty of clarity so people understand what this is really about. When do we need a bit of brevity? Well, when time is short, when we think attention spans are short, when your audience is going to be very, very senior, you want to make sure you have enough of the brevity ingredient. How about context? Well, maybe when there's unfamiliarity with the topic, or maybe when you're communicating with people that have a lot on their mind, or are walking in to listen to you, having just come from something very, very confusing, you probably want to make sure you use plenty of the ingredient context. How about impact? When do we need to have a lot of impact in our messaging? Well, when there's a lot of noise, when we really need to work hard to make it memorable, right? When we really want it to stand out, and we think that's going to be hard to achieve. We got to make sure we add plenty of impact. And then the fifth and final is value. And I think when there's skepticism, when there's choice, when there's competition, when a decision has to be made, and there are other choices that could be made, we have to work hard to make sure that there's plenty of value in the meal that we're creating. All 5 of these ingredients are going to be present in every meal that you create, in every communication that you put together. You always want to make sure that you have some clarity and some brevity and some context and some impact and some value. But depending upon who you're cooking for, depending on who you're preparing for, you're going to make choices of which of those ingredients needs to be most dominant. Think about your communication like you're preparing a meal for an audience and you want to impress them, you want them to have a great experience. And different audiences have different palates, which means you have to adjust the ratios of the ingredients depending upon the situation.
So that was all about this chapter number 1. Okay. I'll wind up my class now. Okay. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Have a nice weekend also. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.